episode 101, Unlearning for Success. Welcome to Gratitude Geek. I'm your host, Candice Rigardi. I help micropreneurs like you find your micro-influencer magic so you attract the best clients for your products and services. And the secret sauce for brewing up the best magic is gratitude. Today, I'm joined by speaker, coach, and author Brian Hilliard. But before we get started, I'd like to share a moment of gratitude. So the amazing team over at Creative 7 Designs is amazing. I recently worked with them on a relationship marketing campaign, and the team does incredible design work. With offices in California, Texas, and Michigan, Creative 7 Designs can help you create your website or marketing materials no matter where you are in the world. Check out the awesome work of Joseph, Chad, and the rest of the team by visiting creative7designs.com. That's creative, the number 7designs.com. And that's this week's moment of gratitude. Okay, now on to my guest. Brian Hilliard is a popular speaker, coach, and author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro, and How to Overachieve Without Overcommitting. As a graduate of Duke University, Brian started his speaking business in 2001, and he has spoken to literally hundreds of audiences in the areas of marketing, leadership, and everyday success habits. Welcome, Brian. I am so excited to have you here.
This is awesome. I didn't know a unintended benefit, episode number 101. Like that's unintended benefit. I'll take it. This sounds great.
101 is great. 101, it's like, marketing 101. Everyday success habits 101. Unlearning the crap. I love your unlearning. So anyway, before we get started, before I start asking you tons of questions, sure. Tell me your story. How did you get to where you are?
Well, I started off, so I was going to college, and I went to Duke, and I graduated and was in corporate America for about maybe 5 or 6 years. I started my own business in 2001, as you said in the intro, and what happened was I started speaking, okay? And at the time, coaching wasn't really a thing, right? Like it is today. So I started speaking, and people were, happy. They're like, "Oh, that presentation was great. And like, this is awesome. Can we talk to you some more?" Sure. So I talked with them, and then we talked some more. And then I realized, boy, you know what? Like, we're going to need to charge somebody something for this. Otherwise, like, it doesn't make any sense. My first 2 clients were $45 a month. Okay. That deal is off the table for anyone thinking about it. All right. But my first 2 clients were $45 a month. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this really is a viable way of doing things. You know what I mean? And we had the term coach, but we didn't have like the different business coach, life coach, wealth coach. I don't remember having all of that. So I'm like, wow, this coaching is really, really awesome. There were definitely some ups and downs, and we can certainly talk about those. But, for me, the biggest thing was being able to understand that there's no such thing as straight line success. So like I have written a few books, I've written 7 actually. And one of the things that I had to realize was that it's up, it's down. You're going to have certain things that are going to come up. And part of being successful, and I had to learn this lesson myself, was that there is no such thing as straight line success. And the other point that you alluded to is that success is less about learning something new that works and more about unlearning something old that doesn't. I had to get out of my own way. And for me, one of the things was I had to get, out of my own way when it came to, I had a fear of success. I had a tendency of, Jim Ellis calls it the monkey mind. There's some things that I had to unlearn. I had to actively participate in an unlearning. There's still things today. I tell people, I said, if left to my own devices, it's a lot like golf sometimes. I'm a big sportsman. It's a lot like golf. As you grow and develop in golf, you still have your old swing. And sometimes if left to your own devices, you revert back to your old swing. That's just how it works, okay? And sometimes, I did my old swing the other day, actually, dropped one in the lake. Okay, you can't, let's figure this out and keep, moving forward. So I've been doing this for now, like I said, a little over 20 years now. Really enjoyed it. Written, like you said, a number of different books, but that straight line success and that unlearning, that's a big piece for me.
To quote Doctor Who, it's a wibbly wobbly thing.
Yes.
That's time, but success is the same way. And you know what? Everybody has their own definition of success. I feel completely successful in how I Well, I just feel successful. And other people wouldn't necessarily think that I was successful. I mean, there are
Hmm.
people who don't think I am, but I feel like I am successful because I have what I want.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point, Candace. I was thinking about this today. The success, I was doing one. What was I doing? I was doing a one of the programs we have is a mastermind, and we do like every other week calls. And so every other week I come up with some topics to cover. Right. This last one was talking about the practical application of the law of attraction. The practical application of the law of attraction, because it can get a little bit wobbly. To your point. So one of the things I said was, I think in terms of ease, smooth, and flow. Okay. Ease, smooth, and flow. And real quick, what that means is that when you make life easier on yourself, when you get out of your own way, when I stop overcomplicating things, when I stop worrying about things, when I engage in activities that make life easier on myself, what happens is your life becomes smoother. Now, in that smooth phase, you get a reduction of negative things. So the law of attraction is a conversation about what you put out is what you get back. Everybody knows that. But what happens is when you get into that smooth, phase, the negative, it's a reduction of a negative. The negative stuff doesn't come because your life is already easy. Then once your kind of things are going and whatever, then you get into flow. I explain that to people like a river where, you're paddling, and then you just kind of, it takes you with you. So now you're in the flow. Here's what happens in the flow. Esther and Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot. When you're in the flow, you get more of good things coming to you. Okay. So the second phase is reduction of a negative. The third phase is an increase of a positive. And what happens is that can be, back to your point, that can be a level of success in and of itself. I came to the conclusion this morning, my girlfriend wound up going to Utah. Her oldest daughter just had a baby. So she's out there. And I was thinking this morning, I got up, I was like, I have a lot of ease, smooth and flow in my life. And here's the thing, you know what success looks like for me? Came up with this morning. Part of success for me is a reduction or an elimination of friction in my life. There is not a lot of if left to my own devices, there is not a lot of friction in my life. There's not a lot of angst. There's not a lot of concern. There's not a lot of worry. There's not a lot of upset. There's not a lot of overreacting. There's not a lot of friction in my life. And when you start applying that to your business, things become smoother. Things come to you that you didn't expect. And life usually becomes more fun, however you define fun and success.
I have so many things I want to add to that. So a long time ago, like back in the early 2000s, I guess when I was first introduced to the whole Abraham Hicks concept and being a cork and flowing down the river and just allowing yourself to bob down the river as like a cork, right? Just floating down the river. My husband kept saying, yeah, you're floating and I'm steering the ship. So that is about, he and I are like this. We fill each other's gaps, where there's not a lot of things that overlap with us. We fill each other's gaps, which is a great relationship. Okay. It's a great relationship for us. It works for us. We've been married for 24 years, for Pete's sake, right?
Right.
But he was saying that he was steering the boat. And I was like, no, you're not. You're not steering the boat. Right. You just think you're steering the boat.
Right. You're under the impression that you're steering the boat because the boat really is not there. First of all, there isn't a boat. There's just us in there. And secondly, it's just a flow in the first place. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And then you talked about there's getting out of your own way. Okay. So I actually had a coaching client ask me what that meant. What does getting out of your own way mean? And I didn't have an answer for her because it seems so obvious to me. So what is your answer? Yeah. What's your answer?
No, I can give it a shot. So it's a little bit more of an explanation and an analogy. Okay. So when I talk about, when I say getting out of your own way, here's what I tell people. I said, successful people do things and don't do things that make them successful. I call that commission and omission. So let me give an example. Successful people, let's say, are go-getters. Successful people are men and women of their word. Those are commission. These are things that you do. But here's the other side of the coin. We also don't do things that make us successful. We're not just Generally speaking, successful people aren't watching a lot of television. Generally speaking, successful people aren't gossipers. Generally speaking, successful people, are coachable. Back to commission again. Okay. So there's some commission and omission. Okay. Here's the real, in my mind, salient point. Unsuccessful people do the same thing. What do you mean, Brian? I mean that they do things and don't do things that keep them unsuccessful. Unpack that, Brian. Unsuccessful people, they are not coachable. Omission. Unsuccessful people have a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Commission. Unsuccessful people feel that they let pride and ego get in the way. Commission. They are actively doing things that are holding them back. I call that putting your foot on the brake and the gas at the same time. Getting out of your own way is a conversation around taking your foot off the brake. It's taking a look at the things that you're inadvertently doing, that you're unconscious or don't know that you're unaware of, inadvertently and unaware of what you're doing, and allowing, back to that word again, allowing the gas to move forward. Most people, in my experience, when it comes to business success, whether it's time freedom, scaling the business, I actually signed on someone talking about a business growth plan. Regardless of the case, it's usually not a conversation around you need to do more of this. You need to get up earlier. And what's wrong with you? Johnson, get up. It's less about that and more around, maybe we need to stop listening to the inner critic as much. Maybe we need to stop having so much negative self-talk. Maybe we should actually take a look at this thing that Shirzad Charmaine calls internal saboteurs, and we should take a look at what's holding us back in that regard. And maybe we should put some light on that and then stop doing things that we've, like a computer or programs running on in the background, but we just didn't know it. And because we're now aware of it, let's get conscious and stop doing some of those things. That's how I explain it. And that's the truth. Because for most people, that's a mindset conversation. I made the point between skill set and mindset.
Oh, and it goes back to the whole unlearning thing. When you were talking, I had this image of when you put your foot on the brake and the gas at the same time, the engine works really, really hard and it's spinning and spinning and spinning and working, but you're not going anywhere.
You're not going anywhere. You're not getting what you want. In basketball, I watch a lot of basketball. And one of the matrices that they have is called an usage rate. It's called a usage rate. Okay. And a usage rate simply is what percentage is an individual a part of an overall team's offense. So that's points scored, passes made, and it might be, I think it's points and passes. I don't know if it's rebounds, points and passes, okay? And the higher numbers is like 30, 33%, just to calibrate you, usage rate, okay? You want to know something interesting? Championship level teams never had somebody on their team that was a top 5, and I believe a top 10, but definitely not a top 5 in usage rate on their team. And you're like, so what does that mean? That means that they're winning games without one person spending a lot of effort winning games. Okay. And what that means in terms of a championship team is, because remember, the playoffs are about beating better teams with progressively better defenses. Okay. Eventually, if your offense is just one or two people, you're going to get beat by a playoff team. That's just how it works. But when you are moving and you're able to move the ball and do certain things, you're able to be successful. So what does that look like in business? What that means is that you want to have it where you're, number one, you're scoring in different ways. Presentations, social media, referrals, networking. LeBron James talks about scoring at 3 levels, okay? The 3 different levels: behind the basket, mid-range, and 3-point. So you're scoring in different ways. Okay. Number 2, what it means is when you're onboarding somebody, is your business life easy? Like when I onboard somebody, I just signed on a young lady today, actually, which was nice. I'm happy. I'll probably go get something. I'm like, I'll go get some ice cream or something. I don't know what I'm going to do. But like you have these situations where is it easy to bring that person on? Number 3, what's your energy state when that new person comes on? Let me tell you what I used to do. Oh, I got this person, and oh my gosh, but I'm not sure if it's going to pay the bills, but it's not enough, and oh my gosh, and I made a rule about 10 years ago. I don't worry about money on days I sign clients. even if I should be worrying about money. I don't. If I
You know
sign on a
what?
client,
Can I just add to that? I made a
absolutely.
rule. Made a rule years ago that I just don't worry about money.
Well,
There is
that's
always enough money.
I have not done that. When I was getting started and when I was doing some of the things, and even now, I wouldn't maybe I'm not worrying as much as I have to be aware of it. But I do get your point, which is you went kind of cold turkey. I didn't go all the way. I had to make the point though that I was going to put out I needed to have an energy that was in alignment with the action that I was given. So the law of attraction needs to be like, look, we just signed on Sally Sue here for 2 large. You need to be happy with that. Don't start complaining about you need 5. Okay, so I had to start doing that. And then the fourth thing I had to do in terms of just making sure that I got out of my own way and kind of ease and smooth and flow is I had to be in a situation, in a place, back to success, where I was able to enjoy myself at the time that I put in. Okay, so that means for me, working out. That means taking the dogs out. That means taking, my girlfriend and I, we like to go on hikes. Like, that's what that looks like for me to be successful. And like we said, full circle with that point, success is whatever you want it to be. Like, success is whatever you want it to be. If you're a bank robber, success means robbing a bank. I'm not. But if that's what you are, then that's success. But it's what it is that you want it to be. And here's the better question. Is what you're doing making you happy? And is it in alignment with who it is that you are? I got that from Shirzad Sharmain from Positive Intelligence. Is what you're doing making you happy? Because if it is, then you're successful. If you're happy.
And that goes back
That's
to
how I
why
look at it.
that goes back to why I retro branded my podcast from Be Who You Want to Be to Gratitude Geek. I started off as Gratitude
like
Geek.
that.
I changed it to Be Who You Want to Be, and I'm back to Gratitude Geek because
Right.
Gratitude Geek is in alignment with who I want to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what happens is alignment, back to that friction, a lot less friction in my life. I was thinking about this morning. Like I said, I was thinking about this. It's hard to describe what a less friction, my level, my secret, my ability to be successful has less to do with what I do or even think per se, although the mindset's a big piece, but less to do with what I think and do and think per se. It's less a conversation of adding something and more a conversation of removing obstacles. So like, what do I mean by that? And I kind of alluded to it a little bit. There's not a lot of worry, concern, anxiety, angst, challenge, roadblock, issue, like upset, overreact. I've mentioned these before. There's not a lot of that in my existence, in my space. And I have found that it's the absence of those that have allowed me to create the presence of, quite frankly, a smooth functioning life that's not perfect, that's not where I want it to be 100%, but is definitely in alignment with where I'm trying to go. And at the end of the day, I think it's the right vehicle to get me there.
So I want to add to that whole law of attraction thing. My husband and I had to go on a business trip. We went on a business trip to Nantucket Island 2 weeks ago. And right. we were going to arrive on Wednesday. Our plan was to arrive on Wednesday and leave on Friday. Well, okay. when I called to make the reservations for the ferry, you have to take a ferry there. We could not get off the island until Saturday night. Mm. So the law of attraction gave me the honeymoon that I had been trying to find for 24 years.
Right.
We were forced to stay an extra 2 days on this remote island. Well, it's not really remote, but it feels remote when you're there because it's, it's 100% surrounded by water.
It's nice.
It's beautiful. Oh, it's perfect. It smells wonderful. I could talk about Nantucket for the whole hour or the whole half an hour. But the thing is, and you're wondering, well, why is it the law of attraction? The law of attraction is I attracted a vacation, right? I attracted a vacation.
That's right. That's exactly right. You attracted it from the energy that I didn't mean to interrupt this, because you attracted it by the energy you put out and by the graciousness that you accepted it.
Exactly. And it wasn't, to accept it graciously was important too, because I could have been like, oh crap, now what are we going to do?
Yes,
we have to, but instead, and it's not like we could get off the island Saturday morning. we could not get off the island until Saturday night, which meant we had to
Right.
spend all day Saturday on the island. Well, guess what we did? We drove around the entire island and went to all the little beaches. We saw a
Yeah.
seal playing in the
Yeah. Wow.
ocean. I mean,
Good.
it was just so
Good.
beautiful, and it was
Right.
so relaxing, and
Right.
it felt completely stress-free. You know, there was
Right.
it was just wonderful and relaxing.
And that's what we're talking about. I think a lot of people, you talk about learning to relax. If you don't mind me talking about that for a second, like that's also something actually I talked about.
Well, learning to relax and unlearning to be stressed.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly right. Learning to relax and unlearning to be stressed. So the learning to relax for me, that was a challenge. Like when I first got started and even years afterwards, I just got to a point within the last 5 or 6 years where I'm really able to relax consistently. And interestingly enough, there was a 2-week stretch about 2 weeks ago where I was getting back to my old swing. Okay. But like learning to relax is a mindset. Okay. And one of the things I talked to my girlfriend about this, we talk about this. We're both from the Northeast, okay, originally. And I tell her, I'm like, look, relaxing is a culture. It's an approach. We had some discussions. The way that I felt like she was interpreting it was a destination. Oh, I'm going to relax and I'm going to veg on this thing. And she was also, it seemed like, and if there's anybody listening, that's fine. She was thinking about it like a binary thing. Either I'm like the Tasmanian devil, or I'm watching 28 hours of Star Wars. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like you can have a time that you get up, a time that you work, a time that I got up at 5:30 this morning, a time that you work. And when we're done, another hour or something like that, I can assure you, I'm going to have groceries delivered. I might wind up having a adult beverage, and I'm going to watch a movie, and it's going to be fine. And learning and understanding and accepting and allowing that to come in, back to that other point, that makes all the difference in the world.
And not feeling guilty about it. I mean, Shane and I, my husband is Shane. We binge watched Ted Lasso after it got all those awards because we wanted to. Yeah. What we did was we got a 7-day free trial to Apple TV. I think it's called Apple TV.
Yeah.
And we needed to watch all the episodes in the 7-day trial, right? Because we weren't going to keep.
Right.
Yeah. So we binge watched it. But the thing is, the reason why Ted Lasso got so many. Have you seen it? Probably not.
I haven't actually. Okay. No.
So let's go back to your conversation about basketball. Yeah. When a basketball team works really well together, it doesn't have those top 5 scorers. It's got a team.
It usually doesn't.
It's got a team that works together. Well, there's a character in Ted Lasso who was the superstar. He did everything himself. He scored all the goals. And then when they booted him from the team, I might be giving away. That might be a spoiler alert. When they booted him from the team started to win games. Right. So it's the team synergy. Well, micropreneurs, who most of the audience listening right now, they're micropreneurs. Mm-hmm. They don't have a team like that, but they do. Right. They do have a team. They're the micropreneur. They're the person who's doing the work, but they also have people around them. They have their clients. They have their vendors. Yep. They have their network. They have their cheerleaders. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I absolutely can. So as a micropreneur, let me tell you what. As a micropreneur, what you have is you definitely have yourself in terms of how you go and how you think. But I can't think of another group, maybe outside of network marketers, of people who really have to have their mindset right because of the point that you just made. There's not like 28 people in the office with them or something like that. So what you want to be doing with micropreneurs is you want to be thinking in terms of, first of all, how am I filling my own cup? Okay, my girlfriend talks about that a lot. What am I doing on a regular basis that fills my own cup? I'm a meditation man. I'm a spiritual man. I get up, I pet the cat. I then pet the other cat. I do some work in the Word. I then go and I do a walk. I then come back. Maybe I jump back in the Bible again, and then I do a meditation. Then I'm ready. Okay, I have a morning routine that fills my cup. That's point number 1. Okay. Point number 2 is, as a micropreneur, you really got to guard how you're thinking in terms of when something bad happens. Like, it's very easy to get upset. about certain things. It really is. And what you want to be doing is you want to be thinking of your team, back to that point. You want to be thinking your team of like, yourself, your mindset, the people around you. Like, how am I showing up with these other people? And if something goes wrong, all right, fine. Tony Robbins talks about getting into another state. You know what I mean? Doing something different, making some adjustments. If something goes right, point number 3, celebrate the success. Make sure that you're really getting it. Especially with micropreneur, listen, when something goes right for me, I signed on, like I told you, another client today. I'm sending out texts to my girlfriend. I did the old Hulk Hogan thing. I've done that before. It's, allow that. I used to not do that because no, you want to be able to have that come in, and that will also get you in the right frame of mind. And then last but not least, number 4 is when you're talking about your team and really talking about how you're going to show up, you want to make sure that how would people describe you? Do they describe you as being creative? Do they describe you as being optimistic? Do they describe you as somebody that fills their cup, as being energetic? Because that's how people describe me. Or do they describe you as, boy, there's a guy that every person I've talked to never has a nice thing to say about him. That's not what you want to be.
All right, we need to wrap up. Wow, time flew. I wish I could ask you a million more questions. For those of you watching the video, this is one of my most favorite books of all time. It's Networking Like a Pro. Brian wrote it with Dr. Ivan Misner, and I highly recommend it. I wish we could talk about it, but we can't. But I'm actually rereading it right now. Yeah, nice. I mean, it's one of those books that you read more than once because you get something different from it every time. My favorite part of it is that it's small chapters and you can just refer to the chapter that you need that moment. So
interesting.
That's my so there. Thank you for writing that book. Okay, and now January 5th, 2022. It seems like it's a while away, but it's actually 2 months from now. We're doing something together. We're doing a lunch and learn on how to get out of your own way and unlock the mindset of success. So talk to me about who that's for, who will get the most from that, and cover a couple of your key points. It's going to be at noon Eastern time, January 5th, 2022. Brian, what are you going to teach us?
Okay, so what we're going to really do, let me do a bullet point in there. I mentioned this earlier, that the 3 greatest adversaries. I talked about Jim Ellis with the inner critic, monkey mind, and the trickster. Okay, 3 greatest adversaries. The name of the book is Inner Excellence, Jim Murphy. I said Jim Ellis before. It's Jim Murphy. Okay. And what we're going to talk about there is that voice in our head that's telling us that we're doing something wrong. That's the inner critic. The inner critic always wants to have a conversation about a negative external outcome and applying it to a personal shortcoming. Micropreneurs. Okay, I didn't get this deal. You're not good enough. This didn't work out. What are you doing here? Didn't happen this. You should stop. Okay. Inner critic is something with that. Next one, monkey mind. That's the paralysis by analysis. Well, I used to be like that. Getting in your own way. I'll wait until next time. I need to think about it. 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 Okay. And then the third thing is the trickster. Here's what the trickster does. The trickster says, listen, I know it didn't work today in terms of, this happened and it didn't work. And it says, not only did it not work today, but I actually don't see it even working tomorrow or next week. Like, I know you didn't get the client today, and that's the inner critic, but I don't even think you're going to get it next week, next month, next year. You need to stop. And that's the through line in all of those things. They all want you to stop. We're going to talk about that. I think it's going to be a good conversation. I'm excited.
It's great. And it'll be a great lunch and learn for both micropreneurs and network marketers.
Yeah. I do a lot of work with network marketers, to be honest with you. And I've actually, one of the books I wrote was Winning in Direct Sales. So yes.
I wish we could keep talking. Okay, so to register for that lunch and learn, it's momgeek.com/lunch. Again, it's on January 5th, 2022 at noon Eastern. It's going to be a great way to start the new year. Fabulous. I'm so looking forward to that. And then, all right, last question. Share with me why you're grateful, who you're grateful for, or just give us a moment of gratitude.
Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, there's a few people and few things. Okay. I'm grateful for the fact that when you're just talking about gratitude in general, I'm always grateful for my health. I'm always grateful that I was able to get up, this morning. Again, from a spiritual standpoint, we are not promised a day. You get up, you move. Okay. So just generally speaking, grateful for that. terms of more specific, I'm grateful for my girlfriend for being able to, she has absolutely helped me become who I am today. We've been together for a few years now. And I think that, what has happened is, and I've thought about this, she's an others first person. She's actually a coach in her own right. She's written a book. Well, her and I wrote the Winning in Direct Sales game together. Being able to allow others to be able to grow together, I'm grateful that she has allowed us to be able to do that. I've been in other relationships where that has not been the case. And this is something where we have been and continue to be growing together. So if we have a specific person, that's what I'm going to throw out there.
Awesome. And links to all of your books will be in the show notes, momgeek.com/101. Oh, so exciting. So thanks for joining us this week on Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast that helps you find your micro-influencer magic. Check the show notes at momgeek.com/101 for links to all the resources mentioned today. And there were a lot of them, lots of tools shared today. Be sure to follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Listen up. You and I both know that you are dazzling, you're spectacular, and you possess magical gifts like no one else in the world. Micro-influencer magic was created just for you. Check the show notes to learn how micro-influencer magic will help you cast your spell. momgeek.com/101. Our theme music is performed by Soul Lily and produced by Rev Brock. I've been your host, Candice Rodarty. I hope you join me on my mission to spread gratitude, sow seeds of appreciation, and harvest a bounty of generosity and kindness. Tune in next week for another inspiring interview with yet another Gratitude Geek.
I know we can make